Hi, I'm Rick Jansen, and this is my fly tying channel. You know, the first insect that was probably imitated in order to angle for a trout was the mayfly. According to our records, that was done in England way back in the 1600s. Contrary to popular opinion, there can be fantastic mayfly fishing in the still waters of British Columbia. The callibaetis nymph is the most widely distributed mayfly species in BC. It's found from the island through to the mainland coast, up through the interior and into the north. And like the caddisfly, if an angler can clue in that a hatch is happening early on, he or she can enjoy a prolonged day of fantastic fishing. That's because the trout will key in on the emerging nymphs as they rise to the surface film, the emergers in the surface film, and the duns or adults on the surface. So it pays to have a variety of mayfly imitations in your fly box. Today's video is going to launch a mini-series on the mayfly, and we're going to start with a very successful callibaetis nymph. Welcome to my fly bench. The pattern that we're going to look at today is based on a pattern I first saw published in BC Outdoors way back in 1994 by writer Ian Forbes. But of course, with the new materials on the market today, I can't leave well enough alone, and so I've come up with a pattern all my own. Let's take a look today at the materials you're going to need to tie a very realistic callibaetis nymph. If you like this video, please tap that subscribe button on the bottom right of your screen. Thank you. Into my vise I have a number 14 2x long curved nymph hook from Togans. To that I've added a core of lead wire to the body. I'll tie these in weighted and unweighted patterns. And to tell the difference in my fly box, a little tip is I use different colored thread. For the weighted ones here I'm using an olive nano silk, and for the unweighted I would use a tan or a black. And so then you can tell the difference by the head color of the thread, whether it's a weighted or unweighted one. Whatever you do, just stick to one color for the weighted and unweighted ones, and you'll be able to easily tell the difference in your fly box. The weighted ones are great for those depths beyond 10 feet. When you're fishing, these nymphs can occur down to about 21 feet, 22 feet. And so when you're going down there, you want something to reach them a little deeper, a little more quickly, get into the fish strike zone. Unweighted ones are great for the less than 10 feet of water. Put on a long leader or fish a clear, intermediate, or slow sink tip. And that will get you into the strike zone in that top, 6 feet of water or so. For the tail, I'm going with guinea fowl. Guinea fowl, I choose exactly 3 fibers. I select those out with my bodkin and pick out 3. Now, mayfly nymphs have 2 or 3 tail segments. Usually it's 3. That's the most often occurring number. I don't want a big bunch of them back there, so you go slender and sparse on the tail. And I always like to pick exactly 3. And the modeling on the guinea fowl is just perfect for replicating the tail of a mayfly nymph. Get those tied on there. They can be fairly long. A full hook length, shank length is great. And don't be shy there on the tail of your mayfly nymphs, because they're quite prominent compared to most of the insects that we see in the nymphal form. Like the chironomids have nothing for a tail, and neither do the caddis, but the mayflies have that prominent tail. We'll put in some gold wire for our ribbing that will rib the dubbed section of the fly, the abdomen section, and we'll get that trapped in there and wrap it forward with the thread and then back again to start our dubbing. Now for dubbing at this, I don't use a dubbing loop. I'm just going to wax my fingers with a little dubbing wax the thread, and select some small pinches of dubbing. Now this dubbing I'm using is a blend that I've used an old coffee grinder to mix. It's 1/3 medium olive, 1/3 gray, and 1/3 tan. The mayfly nymphs often have a mottled look, and so a mixture of dubbings is the way to go. They can vary slightly in value. They can be slightly darker or lighter, but it's often a mottled look for the callibaetis, and you want to do that, so you want to mix it up good. And one little hint on the coffee grinder is, first of all, don't use the one that everybody's using for their coffee. The second is to pulsate your grinding when you press the button on that. Don't just press and hold, as it will often just tangle the fibers around the blade of your grinder and won't do any mixing. So just short pulses, open it up, mix it up again, shred it with your fingers, and some more short pulses, and you get exactly the color that you want. It's a fantastic way of mixing dubbing. So there we go, we've got it to just past the midpoint. We're going to bring our gold wire through that for our ribbing of the abdomen, and then we'll tie that off with our nano silk here. This is 6/0 olive nano silk, and like I said, for unweighted patterns I use tan, and that will do the job quite nicely for me in the fly box. A quick glance will tell me what I've got there. Now we've got two shell backs on this fly. We've got a top shell back and a lower shell back. The top shell back is opal mirage tinsel for the top shell back, and we're going to secure that in there on top of the hook shank. Bring it back, the thread, into the dubbing. I'm going to come back a little bit into the dubbing for that, because we want a smooth transition from our abdomen to our thorax. Our lower shell back, the more prominent one, is pheasant tail in natural, and I'm picking about 5 fibers there. Strip those off the shank of the feather, and I tie these in tips forward, and I'll get those secured right on top of that opal tinsel. There we go. We'll clip off the excess there, and then we'll wrap those down into place and go back into the dubbing again. And for our abdomen, we're using straggle string in green olive. It's slightly darker than our abdomen, and that's what we want. Mayfly nymphs thorax darkens as the wings develop in there, and you want to have that appearance of darkening there at the thorax of the fly, which is why the shell back is pheasant tail and this dark olive or green olive straggle string. So we'll wrap that thoroughly around there, around the base, and then bring it forward to form our thorax, and tie that off and capture that just behind the eye. A couple of good wraps. Cut off the excess. Now for our legs, we are using partridge, and for that I will turn the vise on its side so I can more easily attach about 4 or so legs there per side. And get those legs in there. And the key with these legs is to keep them on the short side. Don't go very long. Not like a caddis. Caddis have very long legs. These ones have shorter legs, so we'll just capture a short set of legs in there. I missed it, the eye that time. We'll get it around there. There we go. There we go. Cut off the excess there. And we'll turn the vise over to the other side. Do the same thing. About 4 or so fibers to create a set of swimming legs on each side of the fly. I want to keep them about the same length. Loose loop method to capture those. Got my hangnails sometimes catching the thread there. Can make it a bit difficult for the thread to slide nicely down my fingers, so I'm going to retry that. Just those rough patches of skin on your fingers sometimes catch that nano silk and won't let it slide down nicely. There we go. Capture that in there. We've got a nice set of legs on each side. We'll cut that excess off, and then we'll turn the vise upright, And we bring our shell back, a pheasant tail forward. This helps position those legs nicely. So we'll bring that up over the eye and capture that, pull it taut, and then secure it in place with a couple more wraps before we cut off the excess there. And our final shell back is the opal tinsel to create that gaseous look that the naturals have as they build up air gases under the skin to help them ascend to the surface. And we'll secure that in place, cut off the excess, give it a wrap or two more, then a touch of brushable super glue. I like to do that with the thread above so the glue drips down toward the wrappings of the head. And then we'll wrap that in place there and whip finish to complete the fly. Yes, you notice a good mayfly hatch going on in your waters. You want to be ready with a good pattern, and this is one of them. Now I've goofed my whip finish there, so I'll restart that and give it 4 solid wraps to complete the fly. Pays to look in, one of the tips is look in the spider webs when you arrive at your favorite lake. You may find a telltale sign there that mayfly hatches have been going on. Pays to look around, look under the rocks and logs in the shoreline, but as you launch your boat, look in the spider webs in the trees as you approach the boat launch, and see what's been going on. And you will often find something that will tell you what's been recent activity. Callibaetis nymph, a great way to go. And you want to be able to match the color and size in your local waters. They can be larger, smaller, they can be a darker olive, lighter. And so you want to know what's going on in the local waters, perhaps take some photographs of the local nymphs and match those at your tying bench. So there you have a standard pattern to go with. Play with the size, play with the color, but you're going to eventually get one that hits a home run for you. So I'm wishing you good luck and tight lines. Thank you for watching, and please share this video with your friends.